Hello, I'm Meredith Blackwell, and I'm at the International Mycological Congress 1111 in San Juan, Puerto Rico. And I'm going to talk to Matías Cafaro, who is our dean at one of the University of Puerto Rico campuses. So, Matías, I've known you since you were a child in mycology,
Pretty
a very
much.
young student working with Bob Lickford.
I was actually, when I met you, was 20 years ago here
Really?
in Puerto Rico.
It was at the meeting.
at the meeting in MSA.
Oh my gosh. I didn't remember when I met you, but I knew it was a long ago. Okay.
Quite a bit.
And then I remember when you came to the Deep Hypa meeting in Baton Rouge,
Yes.
and you collected salad beetles and they got loose in the night. Tell us about that.
Yes, well, that was that was very interesting. We actually collected those beetles and that night, and we used to keep them alive in order to dissect them for trichomycetes, because that's the best way to have them. And that night we actually brought the bags with the live beetles to our room, and they had chewed off the bags, and so they were all over crawling in the beds, and when we went to sleep, we were
I always
just
thought that was a funny story.
chasing beetles all night. So it was interesting.
So tell us a little bit. You're from Argentina and you have an
Yes.
Italian name.
Okay, I'm originally from Argentina. My name is Matías Cafaro, and my grandfather emigrated from Italy, originally from southern Italy, into Argentina. And so I'm basically like the second generation in my family of Italian descent. And when I did my bachelor's degree, or the equivalent of undergraduate in Argentina at the University of Buenos Aires, and then I came to do my PhD in Lawrence, Kansas, with Dr. Bob Lickford.
How lucky were you?
I was extremely lucky, because not only he was an excellent mycologist, he was a great human being. So that's the most important message, and we are like, unfortunately, he's not with us any longer, and this should be, we missed the opportunity to interview him.
Yeah.
But
And
well,
he had planned to come here, hadn't he?
he had planned to come here, but unfortunately he didn't make it. And but I saw him in February before he passed, so it was bad timing, I guess. But he was a very gentleman, a very gentle soul, and he was an excellent advisor, and he was also a very, very special human being. And everybody who was lucky in the mycology world to have met him had a blessing, basically. So I came from Argentina to do my PhD in Kansas. That was another experience.
Very different.
Very different. And so then I finished my PhD at the University of Kansas in 2003, I think. And
Sometime in there.
sometime around there. Then I went to do a postdoc at the University of Wisconsin with Cameron Curry on fungus growing ants. And that's
The Attines.
the Attine ants. And so from there I moved to the University of Puerto Rico in Mayagüez as a professor, and I have been there for 14 years almost.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. So I have, but my major research place is in Mayagüez and in the Caribbean mostly. But I work with, I'm not your typical mycologist. I do not collect fungi, I collect insects, because the group I work with, the trichomycetes, are as fungal symbionts of arthropods. You know that.
Well, well, some of them are fungi. But
Yeah, some of them are fungi. I did my my graduate work on the phylogeny of some of these. And
Did
surprise,
they turn out to be
surprise,
the fungi?
they're not fungi. Some of them, the group has some of the half of them are fungi, and the other are protists in the early divergence between animals and fungi.
And I remember one of your spectacular papers, because when I took mycology, the Acellariales didn't have zygospores.
Oh yes.
So tell about that.
That one was like an event.
And how much did it cost to go out collecting?
Oh, that was nothing.
I'm
Well,
gonna
we'll
tell.
talk about it. That was an interesting story. One of the groups, the Acellariales, has been known for quite a while, because the original description was from France in the 1950s. And then we have several species in North America. And then when we were here in the Caribbean, I was just collecting isopods, which is the primary host. And we started looking at these fungi. There was this new fungus, and the collecting site was just the steps of the university building, of the biology building. We were just walking down. Oh, look, those are isopods. Let's look, have a look. And interestingly, we found a bunch of little balls there. It's like, oh, this is new, because this is a structure we haven't seen. And it turns out that it wasn't, obviously nobody has reported of seeing these. And when you pay attention very, very carefully, it was the first known sexual spore. We saw conjugations, and we discovered a sexual stage that has never been reported in these fungi.
In that whole order.
In the whole order, and so we now have a better idea of what to look for. So all of these has helped us to keep those at least within the fungi for a
Yeah,
time.
yeah,
for a
and I
long
remember
time.
the Harpalales was well known to have zygospores.
But these order didn't
so
know.
I remember that in graduate school, and were they really zygomycetes since they didn't have zygospores?
Yes, and the group now finally, that group was very hard to sequence, because it did have a lot of problems with the long pins within the typical 18S genes and whatnot. So it was very difficult. So it took us a long time to get a good sequence to put it on a tree, and finally we can say that with some certain confidence that there are part of the Zygomycota or X.
Whatever
they are, I
but
think
they have zygosporic fungi, maybe
yes,
is what we can say.
Yes, they're part of that group.
And there's another character that I think is really neat that they have with the septation.
Yes, they have these articulated septa, not as articulated arthrospores.
Okay.
They're not truly arthrospores. They disarticulate in these propagules that they look like arthrospores, but they're like they're a sporangiospore really, because there's a secondary one spore sporangia, and they produce when they germinate, you can see that, and it's very clearly.
Yeah.
But it's hard to you need a lot of observation and a lot of luck to actually see that.
Every mycologist talks about luck, and it's
Well,
true. It's
it
so
is true. It's true. I
Luck
mean,
in your advisor, luck in your studies, luck in your
luck in your life.
yes.
But the things that happen along the line is, I mean, it's not luck by itself. It's also be prepared,
Well,
be aware
your
of
prepared minds. And,
yeah.
And
to
George
what's gonna-
Carroll was a graduate student with me, and he always said in German, but I'm not going to say it in German, that you make your own luck.
Yes.
And I don't know what famous person first said it, but George Carroll said it to me.
Okay. Yeah,
So-
I think it's true. I think
Now,
you make your own.
I want to talk just briefly about your bad luck, because you really have had some bad luck in your university
Yes.
lately.
Well, if you can call bad luck being hit by a hurricane, it's then we had such a big issue with that. It wasn't easy. and at the time I was the chair of my department, and the biology department in the University of Puerto Rico, in the whole system, we are the biggest one. So I directed a big department with at least 1,500 undergraduate students, and we have a huge building just for biology. And that was my responsibility after the hurricane.
Now I visited. That's the same building I saw.
Yes,
Yeah,
that's the
a
same
nice
building. Well, that building, it looked like after the hurricane came through, it was all flooded, paints blew. I mean, some of the windows exploded and imploded, really. And there was water coming in from all parts of the building. But that wasn't the major problem. The major problem came after that. The major problem was a fungal problem.
Really?
Yes. Surprise there, huh? So with all the humidity and the lack of air conditioning and the lack of electricity, we have actually a major issue in our hands. And some of the buildings on campus were very severely damaged. But ours, although it was severely damaged, I had a fantastic crew that was under my command to clean up. But they were, so nobody really knew fungi. So I said, look, the point was that if you see these little, even if you see a tiny colony, it's not gonna be easy to just clean up with some Clorox and get it going. So I decided to pull all the gypsum board and all the parts of the building that were not concrete, just tear it down. So at the end of the process, my boss, the dean and the chancellor came to see me. It's like, what are you doing? And I said, look, I'm a mycologist. I know what I'm doing. And they say, okay, well, then we'll trust you. And they came to see the building and said, well, you can come and look at the building. It looks like a Gruyere cheese full of holes, but it's saved. The building is functional. And I said that could be repaired later on. So it was a lot of major, makeup of the building, and we're still in the process, But that's cosmetics. The building is functional. So
when I lived in Louisiana during Katrina, Baton Rouge was not hit as badly because it didn't flood as New Orleans did, but we talked about Katrina mold, and that was a major problem. As it is with you, I'm sure.
Yes, it still is. I mean, there are parts of like other buildings, for example, the basement of the chemistry building where they held all the big equipment like Raman microscopy and a bunch of other things, it was flooded. So the building, it was nobody could go in. So you have special suits to go in and clean up that thing, and I think it's still closed.
Did you have Stachybotrys, or did you look?
I didn't.
You didn't want to know.
No, I did want to know
Okay.
because it was a health issue and we had to handle it. And yes, we did have Stachybotrys.
Was there a lot of it, or no?
It wasn't a lot of it. It was mostly what you grew there was penicillium, aspergillus, and especially aspergillus. But Stachybotrys, we actually tested for some, and we look at them under the microscope for spores. And yes, there were some that were some colonies that were definitely Stachybotrys growing on the gypsum board.
And that was kind of like New Orleans, because we went down there and sampled, and I really had a hard time finding Stachybotrys, although I was, trying to get all the dark colored colonies.
Yeah, well, we look at the dark colony. If it was a dark colony, I would just look at it and pay attention to that. And yes, we did have some, but some of it, here in the tropics, is very common. You don't need a hurricane for that to occur. So, because a lot of the buildings like this one, where you have air conditioning and condensation, there are parts that you don't see it.
Yeah.
But when you start looking around closely, you'll see that there are like little mold colonies, and if you test for looking for dark septa and the different conidia, you'll find Stachybotrys.
Okay, now another thing about you that's a bit, well, it is unique, is that you're a 2 PhD mycology family, you and your wife, Chris.
Oh yes, I am married to another mycologist, Christine Peterson, and we have been married for several years. We do have a little mushroom whose name is Massimo.
Massi.
And so we have it has been interesting combination over the years. She has been teaching at the university with me for many years, but never got a permanent position, and so it's like on and off. And so she has been teaching and helping in the lab, and recently we got a grant together to work on through Sea Grant, and to work on mangrove bioremediation of basically. It's an interesting project, and she was mostly the one who wrote it. We have been isolating fungi from mangrove sediments and mangrove wood and trying to use them as a consortia to decompose or to process mainly motor oil from boats.
Oh.
And so that's a different, more applied research.
So, anyway, is there anything else that is important to say that I've left out?
Well, no, I think career-wise, Puerto Rico has been very nice to us, and it's sad that what we're going through in this particular situation, where after the hurricane, plus the financial issues that Puerto Rico is experiencing, and so we'll see how. We'll hope that we'll recover, but it's going to take a long time. I think we're going to hear. This is a good thing that we had the meeting and all the mycology.
So glad it worked out.
It worked out here in the end, and also it's a fantastic place for doing research and for having collaborators come down and help, because there's so many questions and so many things to address, and it's very interesting.
Well, you're lucky to be in a department with 4 mycologists. It's very nice.
Yeah. Our department has 4 mycologists. We have 2 medical mycologists and 2 environmental ones, one being me. But right now I'm a little bit away from the lab because
You are now a dean. We're going to finish.
I'm dean of research, so I'm exploring other parts of academia life. So,
well, good. We wish you luck.
Thank you very
And
much.
It was very nice to talk to you.
Thank you very much for this opportunity.